Welcome, everybody, to the Mace Machine Horror Show. I am your guest this night. Tonight, my name is David Mace, and tonight I am going to be ranking the entire Halloween series. Yes, the Halloween series is very near and dear to my heart. I have two series that I adore very much. It's this one, and it is the Friday 13th series. I love them very much, have a special place in my heart. And if you saw last week's episode where I ranked the 31 on 31, um, it's kind of a cheat sheet to know how I'll be ranking these. I'll go a little bit more in depth on each entry, but I will be ranking all 11 entries. And I would love to see your rankings down below. So I'm going to start off with number 11. And number 11 goes right into Halloween Resurrection. Halloween Resurrection is my last entry, my 11th ranked entry in the series. When this one first came out, I never saw this one in the theater. After watching H2O, I was wondering how they were going to be able to do this after the ending of that movie. And it's kind of like the old Aliens to Aliens 3 thing where they just try to, I don't know, they have all these unanswered questions. They just try to make a way to continue the series without the main characters in there. So what they do is they have Michael basically kill this security guard. Not kill him, but take away his voice box, his larynx, to where he can't talk anymore, and puts the mask on him. Laurie ends up decapitating the officer instead of Michael, and Michael escapes through the bushes. And then it continues where Laurie's back in an asylum, and Michael ends up visiting her on Halloween. She seems really prepared this time for him, but so he tries to stab her like he does in Halloween 2. Again, though, this movie was directed by Rick Rosenthal, and he did an excellent job on the original Halloween 2. It's definitely one of my favorites. And unfortunately, this one is my least favorite. But there are some good things about this entry. I like, I don't know, I kind of like Michael's mask a little bit in this one. I like the scene where there's a basement in the Myers house, and it shows kind of almost like the glare is almost like a blue light before he's going to kill one of his victims there. But there is a lot of negatives in this one where he kills Laurie right off the bat. They didn't have really much to do with her at this point, so they introduce all these new characters, and I'd say most of them are. No one really cares about most of them except for mainly the main girl. Um, it's a cast of friends. They win a trip to go to the Myers house where Busta Rhymes and Tara Banks' characters have a contest for spend the night in the Myers house. Try to uncover all these secrets there. Yeah, I don't know. One of the scenes that bothers me the most is where I went into this a little bit in my last episode, where Michael basically comes up behind Busta Rhymes' character where he's dressed up as Michael Myers. And then Busta Rhymes basically tells him, I'm playing Michael Myers. You need to get out of here. And Michael actually listens to him. That does not seem realistic to the Michael Myers character that I grew up with. And, everything. They kind of did a little bit. I don't mind like the cameras where all the kids are doing the cameras. And kid named Deckard who's kind of watching it. I like the idea where all the kids watching it is kind of think of it's like a prank, and then eventually they realize that Michael really is killing these kids in here, which is kind of a cool concept. I know it has the kid from American Pie in it and a couple of other characters, but the ending's bad. Busta Rhymes start doing karate moves and karate chopping Michael is just ridiculous. Yeah, I just don't have much more to say about that. I can't really defend much about this movie. So yeah, that's my number 11 ranked. We'll go right into number 10 ranked, and that is Rob Zombie's Halloween. Part 2. Um, I do got to give. I'll start with some of the positives. I got to give Rob Zombie some props on trying to do his own thing here. I know his first version was kind of more of a tribute to John Carpenter's movie. Um, it picks up right after the end of the first one, and it's got a lot of gore, a lot of great kills in this one. I like the beginning scene all in the hospital. It's almost kind of an homage back to the original part 2 there. There's some good killings there. But then after that, when Laurie wakes up from her dream sequence, it kind of goes downhill from there. I really respect though the concept of showing the aftermath of the post-traumatic stress disorder that Laurie goes through, and all the characters in that movie, the survivors. That part's really interesting because they make that part look realistic. I love Sheriff Brackett's character. Brad Dourif does an excellent job. Danielle Harris, she's always a pleasure to have in the Halloween series. She does a great job as well. Her death scene is, that one's real emotional. If you're, especially Brackett's character there, Brad Dourif does an excellent job there. Um, Rob Zombie brings a lot of his own characters onto almost all of his movies. So you see a lot of these characters from some of his other entries that he's created. Michael not having a mask in most of that movie really bothers me. He's got a long beard. It just doesn't seem like a Halloween movie for the most part. Laurie's character, her friends are very annoying, especially her friend that dresses up like the Rocky Horror Picture Show character. Her dialogue is ridiculous. I like the scene though where they go to the Halloween party when they listen to that band. That's pretty fun. Got the kid dress up like a Teen Wolf. It's kind of funny there. The scene in the stripper joint is kind of interesting. Has some cool kills there. Loomis is ridiculous. He's become money hungry, but it is kind of funny when he goes on the talk show about his book, and Weird Al starts basically belittling him there, making fun of him, thinking like that they're talking about the Mike Myers character from Austin Powers. That part's really funny. The end I felt was really weak. I don't like how they make Michael say die at the end when he's trying to kill Loomis and then he gets shot. It just, I don't know. Not a big fan. Of course, the White Horse also is ridiculous, but definitely some really good kills. I'll give it that. But I don't really know where they could have continued after that entry if Rob would have made a third one. So I'm really good. Glad that they decided to go in a different direction there. So yeah, so that is my number 10 ranking. Number 9 ranking is The Curse of Michael Myers, Halloween Part 6. And this one, I remember seeing this one in the theater. I seemed to really enjoy it when I saw it in the theater, the theatrical version. It's kind of all over the place. I think what really ruins this is the direction that they took in this. They didn't really know what to do after Halloween 5, especially when you had the Mystery Man in Black connection. It took almost, I believe it was 6 years before they made this movie. And I remember at a young age, because I grew up basically with the first 5 entries, really looking forward to this one, wanting to know the questions of basically like, who is this man in black? What happened to Michael? What happened to Jamie? So I guess where they went with it, where they had Dr. Wynn, who played a really small character from part 1, being the man in black, I guess that made sense. But it was all over the place. The atmosphere was great in this one. The mask was great. Michael was really brutal in this one. Some of the characters I didn't mind. I didn't mind the main girl. I thought Paul Rudd did a pretty good job as Tommy Doyle as well. I know it was one of his first movies. It was between that and Clueless. He was filming between each movies, I guess. And the dad plays a great asshole character in that movie, so it's really rewarding when he gets offed in that movie. One of my favorite visual scenes in that movie also is when Michael kills the Strode mother, where it shows where she pulls off the sheet in the yard, and it shows the axe where Michael just posing there before he offs her. I thought that was a really cool image there as well. Them not bringing Danielle Harris back. Yeah, they really did her wrong, but I guess it was nice to not see her get offed and it was some other character. So you weren't as much emotionally attached to that character. They kill her off really quick in that one. Um, they try to bring with the Thorn backstory. Um, I don't know. It's like, again, they had to fix the train wreck that was in part 5. Some of those unanswered questions. And the theatrical cut has a really good scene where Michael grabs a machete and basically just destroys all these doctors in a strobe light scene. That's pretty cool. You can kind of barely tell though what's going on there. I like the scene in the hallway where Michael's chasing down one of the doctors there and basically smashes his face into the jail cell. I thought that had a really weak ending. I don't think they really knew what they were doing. Donald Pleasance, was basically on his last breath in that movie. He passed away before the movie even came out. It was dedicated to him. I guess for what he could do, he did a manageable enough job there. He really is the heartbeat of the series, though. Definitely hurts in some of the later entries without him. It's not the same. The Barry character almost playing like a red herring, so to speak, of being the Man in Black before he's at that Halloween party. That's kind of funny. That scene there, he almost looks like he's a flasher there. There is a scene there where the main girl's brother, after he's being intimate with his girlfriend there in the house, and she's next door in Tommy Doyle's house. Kind of a little bit reminds me a little bit of the first entry there, where she sees her son sneak out to go next door, and she has to go in after him, and you want to know where Michael's at, and you see the bodies, to see like the mom hanging, kind of like the character from the original, like when Laurie finds his character swinging upside down. And then the producer's cuts is a mess too. There's a lot of things. I remember being really excited when I purchased the producer's cut on eBay, but the music didn't flow right with it. The idea of Michael impregnating Jamie is probably arguably one of the worst decisions ever in the entire franchise. I don't like how Michael's kind of kept captive, almost like he's being taken care of, like he was hidden like these 5-6 years. Like, I just think of Michael like by himself and nobody directing him or anything like that. So that kind of ruined it a little bit. So I just think this movie had the potential to be a lot higher in my rankings if it wasn't all over the place. So yeah, so that is my number 9. And next we're going to go into my number 8, which is Halloween H2O. And it might come to a surprise to a lot of Halloween fans because I know it's ranked a lot higher in a lot of other people's rankings. This one I saw in the theater as well. And after coming out of that one, I love that one as well. It had arguably one of the most shocking endings at the end. I'd say probably the second most surprising ending besides Halloween 4. I think surprised me the most with that ending there. But I love the idea, when they brought Laurie back. I love how they brought the nurse back from part 1 and part 2, and how Michael breaks into her house. It would make sense because almost like she's probably the only person that knew where Laurie was. So Michael had to somehow track her down and go through her files to be able to track Laurie. But it's kind of weird how it waits like 20 years later. It's like, what did Michael do during all that 20 years, after being burned? So they had to go a different direction after 4 through 6. I don't mind them not going with those 3, not really mentioning them. I guess they could have added like maybe Lori did know that she had a daughter, and maybe she could have known, that she. I don't know. I don't. They could have mentioned her passing away or something. I don't know. Maybe Lori's just that determined to make sure she was away from Michael altogether, so he couldn't find her. Uh, a lot of reviews, I agree with them. It is kind of like a Scream setting. You're right, in that late 90s era, and 90s was a difficult time for horror movies. And I think a lot, with these rankings, if The Mask is so important to this series. And this movie also dropped the ball on The Mask. Hate The Mask and H2O. Um, I don't mind him killing the nurse off in the beginning. He goes off gets the car from the woman and her daughter at the rest stop there. It's such a different, it's like complete opposite to 2018's version when he goes to a rest stop. So, yeah, I mean, I guess maybe he could have killed that woman, but it didn't matter either way. I mean, it was such a small role. So, I guess I'm okay with how they decided to go that direction with him just stealing her car and her keys. When he gets to the school, I thought Josh Hartnett did all right. Some of the characters, they weren't bad, like the main characters. Another big problem I have with that entry is Michael not often LL Cool J's character, the security guard. Uh, I would have liked to see him. I have nothing against LL Cool J, but the character that he played in that movie, Michael, in previous installments, I would think would have, not just walked by him. He would have offed him before going into the dorms to start stalking the kids. But the weeks were or the killings were very watered down in that version. I don't know if they were trying to, you know, try to copy a lot from the original, because there's not a lot of blood in the original as well. So I think they were trying to go with that mystique, but it doesn't really work as well when you're doing it in the 90s, because especially after going through all the gore fest basically in the 90s or in the 80s on, everybody wants to see the good kills. Um, Charlie's character was kind of annoying. It would have been nice to see his kill. Seemed like a lot of the kills were off screen, actually, thinking about it now. Lori's PTSD also as well makes sense. She keeps having visions of Michael coming after her. Uh, I like how they have Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, Janet Leigh, play a role in that. And she's also driving the psycho car, which is cool. Uh, the music was horrible. They used Scream music. Maybe if they used music from the original first two, maybe I'd like it as more as well. If they could have just got that, where people would have that ranked higher. But again, these are just my predictions. It's not like my rankings are right. Sometimes some of these entries move in different directions over the years. Like, again, I would say this one was more in my top 5 for a long time, but there's a lot of ways it hasn't aged well. So the beheading at the end was great. But if you're going into the resurrection role where Lori is basically, like, if you're saying that's the security guard, like how they play the role in Resurrection, where she tries to run Michael over after he gets out of the body bag, and he's like somehow on the front of the van, and then when she crashes down the hill into the tree, and into his back, I mean, he would have been done there as well. So it doesn't gel very well, but again, it is a horror movie, so it's not supposed to be, perfect. So, yeah, so Halloween H2O, that is my 8th ranking. And number 7 is probably more of nostalgia. Number 7 is Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. And, I enjoyed it for a long time, because that's, again, one of the ones I grew up in. Building off, continuing after number 4 was an interesting take. I like how they always continue after usually most of each entry, where, it shows Michael, coming out of the well that he fell in, all the SWAT team throwing down the dynamite, and then showing how he escapes. But then it gets kind of weird there for a second. He floats down the rapids in the river. I guess there would be water by that well, but I don't know. And then he floats off to this hermit guy's house and then basically just falls over and is in a coma for a year. That's kind of weird. Like this guy, just kind of random guy taking care of him for a year. I don't know if he knows who he is or if he's just trying to be helpful. But then it goes kind of into Jamie's flashbacks of showing when she stabbed her mother, and now she's in a sanitarium, for kids, and she becomes mute all of a sudden. I guess that's kind of the aftermath of what she went through. And she has some kind of a sense of knowing where Michael is, and she starts having, all these shakes, like almost like seizures, like every time when he's getting ready to kill somebody or when he's waking up. And then Michael wakes up, gets his mask back, and just because he's evil, he kills the hermit right off the bat. He don't care. So, and then he goes right back into um, where the Strodes lived, and they take out Rachel right off the bat. That's really raw deal there because Rachel's one of my favorite characters in the entire franchise. I loved her role in the fourth one, how protective she was, how close of a bond her and Jamie had in that movie. I know in the beginning she was very selfish, wanting to be with her boyfriend and stuff, but she's a teenager, so she made up for it for how well she protected her when they were trapped in the sheriff's house there. But I'll get into that when I get into Halloween 4. But so Halloween 5, so we lose Rachel. We get introduced to Tina, who's arguably one of the most obnoxious characters in the entire franchise. And we also get Tamara Glynn's character there, and lovely lady. Like I said in my last video, I'm friends with her online, and really sweet lady, and hopefully maybe one of these years I can meet her at some point. But some of my close friends on like Lance Wagner's got the opportunity to meet her, and Ty and Draco, they've been able to interview her. So, and I love her character. Her boyfriend seems like a dweeb, Spitz, whatever's his name. He was one of the guys in Child's Play 3. And then Tina's boyfriend's kind of a douchebag too. He's kind of looks exactly like a mirror image of the Fonz from the Happy Days show, Henry Winkler. I like when he pulls up to the sanitarium when the first time you meet him, he's blasting that song in the background, anything for money. It's kind of cool there. Let's see. I really enjoy the Halloween party where at the farm, the Tower Farm, and they have the barn scenes really cool. I like the different weapons that Michael uses there. He uses the sai and like like the old children, the corn weapon. He uses the pitchfork when he kills Spitz. Um, let's see. They have the chase scene where Jamie finally starts talking, and Loomis is pretty creepy in that episode as well. Um, he's just obsessed with trying to move on with his life, trying to make sure that Jamie doesn't become like Michael. I mean, he's just watching every move there. So I guess I kind of sympathize with what he's trying to do. He spent a lot of his last, 10 plus years, actually 25 plus years trying to, figure out Michael and what's the method behind all of his madness and trying to stop all that. Um, let's see, Tina eventually dies out in the woods, and then they go to the weird Myers house, which looks nothing like the original Myers house. I know they filmed this one, I believe, in Utah, and I think that house is actually for sale right now. I believe it's like a 10-bedroom house. One of the scenes in there is pretty cool there, where Jamie has to hide in the chute in there. Apparently, she really got stabbed in the leg at one part during that sequence. So she's a trooper. Danielle Harris does a great job in both these entries. She was one of my favorite child actresses. She did an amazing job in those two movies. You get introduced to the Man in Black coming off the bus, kicks the dog. Looks like a version of like Creighton Duke, which is kind of funny there from Jason Goes to Hell. And then you get to the scene towards the end where um, Jamie's hiding from or running from Michael, goes up to this, the attic, finds Rachel's body, finds Max, the dog's body, finds Tina's boyfriend's body there, hides in the coffin there. 'Cause I guess Michael's probably going to end up burying her in there. Somehow, though, it's kind of a little bit of reference to Halloween 2 there, where Laurie says Michael's name, or Jamie says uncle here, and Michael kind of stops for a second. And like in part 2, he kind of turns his head to the side, and then he comes, in this one, he takes off his mask and cries. That I thought that was a big mistake as well. I don't know. I don't understand that as well. I don't know what the director's idea was, his intentions in this entry. It's kind of like the beginning of when the series went down, actually. So, um, then you get the ending scene where Loomis starts uh, basically baiting Jamie and baits Michael to him, unloads a heavy set chain on him, shoots him with a bunch of tranquilizer darts, starts beating him with a 2x4 like he's Hacksaw Jim Duggan or something. And then, I don't know, then he gets tired and I don't know if he has a stroke or something, falls down on him. And then Michael's in a jail cell where somehow he has his mask on, which is completely ridiculous. I mean, I'm glad he did because I don't really want to see him without his mask. And then all of a sudden, you get the Man in Black showing up. And then you see the funny scene where it shows his shadow with the Tommy gun, almost like he's Dick Tracy there, starts shooting, killing all the cops. I don't know if he kills Sheriff Meeker in there. Sheriff Meeker is actually my favorite sheriff in the entire series. I'll talk a little bit more about him in the fourth one, but I don't really remember if he killed him at the end of 5. I think he did. I think it was one of the last victims that they show on the ground, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I'm sure you guys in the comment section might be able to give me that there, show me the facts. And then Michael's gone, and Jamie starts crying. That's the end. So that's a rundown to Halloween 5. So now let's go into my number 6 entry, and that's Rob Zombie's Halloween. Is my number 6, and I think a lot of the reason why I saw this one in the theater as well, I think I rank it that high just because I don't know if it's because it's so long, but I love the original so much. If I can get just a little bit more of that, but just like an updated version, I can't really complain much about that. The backstory, I like it and I don't like it at the same time. It is kind of cool, I guess, in a way to see Michael as a kid, but then you get, Rob Zombie, a lot of his movies, you get that very vulgar characters where they just like to cuss a lot and put people down and trailer park trash mentality. Very raw, it seems like a lot of his characters are. They're very easy to dislike, these characters. And not a big fan of the child who plays Michael, Dag. I don't know. I found it kind of disturbing when he beats the bully to death with the branch. I mean, I know he's a punk and he deserves it, but it's tough to see, a teenager get murdered. I mean, the scenes though, when it shows him beating him and the blood there, they make that look really realistic. So I got to give him props there. Michael killing animals. I know he does it in the original too. I'm not a big fan of that. I know he kills the dog in part 4 as well. But I don't know, it's kind of unnecessary, but I think they try to refer it to where, if kids are killing animals at a young age, almost equals them being a serial killer in the long run, but that's not all necessary. I don't know. I've never killed an animal, so. But yeah, he kills the stepdad, slits his throat. The mom becomes a stripper. Sister shows Judith and her boyfriend. Again, when he kills her boyfriend with the baseball bat, that seems really realistic too. He does a really good job making his killings look realistic. I'll give him that. That doesn't mean I'm like a huge fan of that. Yeah, he kills his sister. Then he ends up going to the sanitarium. That's pretty cool too. He has the stages like that. beginning part, it's like a three-part movie all into one. Part two is kind of with him at the sanitarium. Um, eventually when Michael kills the nurse's character, Sybil Danning, there, he stabs her with the fork. Basically, Sherry Moon, zombies, her character. She knows basically at that time there's no hope for Michael ever getting better. He pretends he blacks out all these killings, and then that's when she decides to commit suicide, take her life. And then it kind of fast forwards. I think it's 15 years later, and Michael's grown up, and all of a sudden he's a monster. Basically, he's a 7 foot tall monster. Tyler Mane does a really good job. An ex pro wrestler, so he looks very menacing for sure. Danny Trejo, I like his character. It's kind of sad when his character gets killed. He's basically took care of Michael all these years, but that's who Michael is. He doesn't care who you are. I guess he has some kind of a connection with Loomis as well, because he could have had opportunities to kill him, and it seems like he just kept letting him survive as well. So yeah, he goes on a big massacre, and then he goes off up, and really enjoyable scene. He's um, you got the character from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, and he's also from Dawn of the Dead, the original. I'm Joe Grizzly, motherfucker. Yeah. And then Michael stabs him. Joe Grizzly, bitch, stabs him. He has the kind of the cool pumpkin orange looking mask there. And then he steals his jumpsuit, goes to Haddonfield. And then there's where you basically get a lot of the same stuff from the original Halloween, which is, I believe, is the best part of the movie. Um, Big fan that they brought Danielle Harris back, of course, as Annie Brackett. And I don't really mind these characters. The girl who plays Lori isn't too bad as well. Scout Taylor Compton, she does a pretty good job. Of course, you get Brad Dourif playing Sheriff Brackett. I thought Loomis. I thought he did a good job playing Loomis. Not too bad. The look looks good. Yeah, then you get it right into. I thought the kids might have been a little bit more annoying in this one, but I guess they're just trying to make it like modern day kids, how they talk a little bit more. Um, instead of this time Michael killing Annie first, he goes after Linda and her boyfriend. Then you get the homage with Michael dressed up as a ghost again, which is cool. Except that, it's kind of weird they end up just being in the Myers house to be there instead of the house, the Lindsay's house, like in the original. And then he ends up killing Paul. Or Michael doesn't do it in the original. Kills Laurie's step parents. It's kind of sad. Dee Wallace's character, I feel kind of sad for them. But Michael's just, he's just relentless. He kills everybody basically. And then he takes it to the Myers house, and with Laurie, there's some pretty good sequences there, like when Loomis shoots him in the pool. But it seems like at the end it kind of drags on a lot, where Michael's using that 2x4 basically to destroy the house, to find Laurie hiding in the walls. It seems to go on forever. It's kind of cool at the end though when Laurie Michael tackles her off the balcony and she shoots him in the face. So it's kind of cool. And she screams. Seems kind of realistic there. And I like all the photos at the end where it shows all the characters and the scenes. I thought that was a good job as well. But yeah, it's just right at the middle of the pack for me. So that's number 6. Number 5 is definitely one that's grown on me over the years. As a kid, wasn't a big fan. But it is Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Definitely a cult classic. It's definitely grown over the years with me and other Halloween fans. It should, again, I think we all agree on this. It should not be called Halloween. It should just be called Season of the Witch. And what can I say? I love Tom Atkins as an actor. He just seems like the ultimate ladies' man. His characters are always written that way in the 80s. I mean, He was great. He wasn't, he didn't really play that role in Escape from New York, but I loved him in Night of the Creeps, Halloween 3, and then even a very underrated one. I just recently watched these again. Is the Maniac Cop series, the original there. He's been in other stuff too, but uh, Creep Show. He was in Creep Show as well. But Dr. Chalice, great character. I definitely was rooting for him. Um, Basically, it's this story about this guy who's using these rituals, like um, to where he wants to kill all the kids in the world. Basically, it's more of a sci-fi type movie. He has these men's dressed in suits. His music is great. If you think about this, Tommy Lee Wallace did a great job on this. If you watch this movie, you'd actually would think of it as a John Carpenter movie. I mean, the music sounds very Carpenter-esque. Uh, the music, the jump scares. I love it. All reminds me of a John Carpenter movie. They kill this guy who's running down the street with the mask. They find him in the hospital and they rip out his eyeballs. Dr. Chalice is like, here's the nurse screaming. He's like, what the heck's going on? This guy lights himself on fire in the car and he's just all spooked out. I mean, it's not very normal for patients to be like acting like that or criminals acting like that. So the daughter comes in there, Ellie comes in there, and obviously, very attractive girl. Chalice is attracted to her very well. He's married to Annie. Annie from Halloween 1, and basically they've had a lot of problems, and she wants him to take the kids out trick or treating, and but he's very spooked out about this death that happened at his hospital, and he wants to do some investigating with the girl's or the daughter of the first victim, and so they run off together. He's like on this payphone, basically making every excuse, like I got this meeting, I can't make it, and he has like a 6 pack of beer, runs off with this chick. Classic Tom Atkins. Um, they go off to this small town, and they rent this little motel room. They pretend they're husband and wife. Um, they decide to get intimate together. It's always a funny scene. She's always like, "Where do you want me to sleep, Dr. Chalice?" And he's like, "That's a dumb question." And they meet this next door neighbor there, and all these and this family, also really goofy family. They want to go to the factory to find out all the secrets, about all these masks. And they have this London Bridges annoying song. You can never forget this song in this entry. It's all 8 more days till Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. 8 more days till Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Very catchy song, kind of like London Bridges falling down. And when they play that song, and then they have like the flashing on the TV, it's supposed to have some kind of a device to where all these masks have all these bugs in there, and they basically rip your face to shreds. They have like a Mrs. Gutman, the next door neighbor. She gets zapped with some kind of a laser, playing with the cap that falls off the back of the mask, and she dies. And so the next morning they go off to they want to tour into the warehouse, try to get all the want to know all the secrets of what's going on in there. Um, they're real. I forgot. There's a great beheading scene too. Like there's a drunk out in the alley, starts talking. There's cameras all around in the small town, and there's a curfew there. They catch anybody out there. They basically have their bodyguards out there to take out anybody, and they have the guy who plays Michael in Halloween 2, great stunt actor, Dick Warlock, plays one of the suit guys, and he rips off the head of the drunk. That's always a cool killing in that movie as well. It's one of my favorites. And then after they leave the factory, the men in the suits come by. They abduct Ellie's character. During that time, There's always debate if Dr. Chalice slept with a robot, if she was always a robot the whole time, or was she a real woman? My main theory is I think she was a real woman up until they kidnapped her, and then I think they turned her into a robot there. And then when they finally captured Dr. Chalice's character, when they have him watch and see the family get taken out from the masks and the commercials, I think during that time after he escapes and finds her, I think at that time that's when she's the robot. At that time, every time from that moment on, and eventually they drop all the buttons on the back of the boxes of the masks, and then it kills all the people in the factory there. Dr. Chalice gets zapped into this rock or whatever, and then they escape, and then Ellie becomes her robot, and then tries to kill Dr. Chalice, and he has to kill her at the end. And then he knows before the big giveaway at 9, he needs to somehow get the radio stations, all the TV stations, to stop playing the commercial. And then they get a lot of the stations off, but I think one of them's still up, so it has a ending that we don't know really what happens. But I don't know, really enjoyable movie. It is ranked in my top 5, so I like it a lot, but I do think it would have had a lot more success if it was just called Season of the Witch, because I know Carpenter and everybody wanted to have that idea of after the first Halloween to have different themes for each year of Halloween. I definitely do not think that series would have had near as much success if they would have went that route. That's what I personally think. Everybody wants to see Michael Myers, including myself, but it was an interesting concept. So I think they definitely made the right decision. So all right, so let's go into number 4, and that is going to be Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. And this was one where I was very excited when this one first came out. I remember renting it back in 1988, 89 when it first came out on video. I remember renting that and the first Child's Play at the same time, and really enjoying it. I love the case to number 4 where it shows the original mask on there, and that is by far my biggest gripe in this movie. Is I hate Michael's mask in number 4. He looks so much like Data in Star Trek. That is the biggest mistake that they made in this entry. If he would have had the mask from 1 and 2, or at least make it to look just like it, as close as they can, even if that mask was deformed or all messed up, I mean, it could have been maybe even a little bit higher. But I love the story. I like the idea of Michael, being out for 10 years, the burn victim. They have the music, which is great. They decide that to write off Jamie Lee Curtis's character because she wanted to go on to bigger and better things. She was done doing horror movies at that time. She tried to do other things, and she had some success. But when all is said and done, when Jamie Lee Curtis officially retires, she will be known as a scream queen and always in horror movies. Not very much to some of her other stuff. I know Freaky Friday's really popular, and True Lies is popular in some of her other stuff. I think My Girl, she was in the My Girl movies. But to me, she'll always be known for the Halloween series mainly. I mean, I know her too from Prom Night, Terror Train, and some of the other stuff she did as well, Road Games. But she'll always be linked to Halloween. So they decided to kill her character off, and then she had a daughter. And I think, I think what I read was Jimmy's character from Halloween 2 that they had hooked up maybe after that movie, and then they had a child, and that was Jamie. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but that was always my thought, and I thought I read about that at one point too as well. So the goal is Michael's going to be taken to Smith's Sanitarium, and they decided to do it at night when the rainstorm. I don't know why they decided at that time. If that was me, I would have had a bunch of SWAT team behind following that ambulance all the way there. I mean, with what Michael had done in the first 2 movies, that would only make common sense. But then we might not have had a movie if they would have went that route anyways. So, he hears that they talk about, does he have any living relatives? And then all of a sudden they say, yeah, niece in his hometown. And all of a sudden he gets a fist, like almost like it wakes him up, so to speak. And then he sticks a thumb in one of the doctors, kills everybody, and then escapes, heads all the way back to Haddonfield. Dr. Loomis, very very popular character from the first two as well. So they decided after part two that neither one of them had passed away in the big fire, Michael or Dr. Loomis. So Michael, Loomis is burned. He's outraged that why he wasn't contacted when Michael was being transferred. I think everybody just thought they got tired of hearing his story and just, thought he was just crazy. But yeah, maybe he was, but there was a lot of truth and reasoning why. So he ends up going there and he just realizes right off the bat, Michael's gone. He's on his way. You will not find him. And I like the gas station scene. Is cool. Michael's kind of all badged, wearing all badged up in his suit. Found a suit there, and the little long scene there where it shows him there, and it shows like the pictures on the wall, and you got all the Abraham Lincoln pictures. I always thought that was funny because it showed almost like as if Abraham Lincoln had eaten there before. It's like basically, thanks for the great food, Abe. I find that scene very funny. I don't know, for some reason. And then the whole gas station explodes. That's a cool scene there. You get introduced to uh, Rachel and her family. Rachel's a very likable character. She has this boyfriend that she really likes, and their parents basically tell her that she has to babysit Jamie on Halloween, and she's upset about that because she had some big plans with her boyfriend, and basically was given the guilt trip to her parents of, oh, now I'm going to lose this man because I have to babysit. And, looking at it now, she was right because basically Brady was not loyal to her. He found Kelly Meeker, which smoking hot girl, sheriff's wife, very attractive girl, and it's hard to turn that girl down. But so yeah, but I mean, Rachel could have always told Brady that while they're at school too, because she found out this morning. So I guess she's part to blame as well. So um, I really enjoy Sheriff Meeker in this entry. I like how when Loomis shows up to the police station, almost immediately he believes him. It's like, okay, let's take this seriously. Nobody in Haddonfield can forget a face like you. And what can I do to help? And he's like, Michael Myers has come back, and I like how serious they take it. And then I go, we need to find Jamie Lloyd right away. So they go there, and Jamie's getting picked on at school during that time, and she goes to a hardware store where Brady's working and Kelly Meeker's working there as well. And she picks out a clown outfit, just like how Michael wore in the first one. And then I don't know really if I think Michael was there. I mean, I don't know if it was just like a flashback in her mind or if he really was there. I know he really got the mask there, but I don't know if it was exactly that moment. Maybe so, since it showed like when they're sweeping up all the glass, Michael was standing there with the mask. But it's kind of a little bit of a gray area scene there as well. And that's when her and Brady, Rachel and Brady, kind of getting a little bit of an argument because he's upset she didn't tell him this in the morning that they had to break off the plans. Jamie wants to go trick or treating. She just kind of wants to fit in with all the kids. Everybody looks at her as an outsider, and talks about how her uncle's the boogeyman and everything. So feel bad for her there. And she decides she wants to go trick or treating. Rachel takes her out, and then she hooks up with all the bully kids. If I was her, I would have said, no, hell with you guys. You guys were picking on me at school. I don't want to hang out with you guys. So then they end up going to Kelly Meeker's house. She seems kind of shocked to see Rachel there, and then Brady comes down the stairs. Obviously, he was not being loyal to her, but at least Brady wasn't trying to deny it. He basically was saying like, yeah, you stood me up, so yeah, the hell with you. So not something I would do, but it's something he would do. So And then she loses Jamie. Um, Eventually, she finds her. I got to go on to about the visuals. The beginning of Halloween 4 has the great Halloween atmosphere there. Shows all the pumpkins and the everything there, and I like the trick or treating setting as well. I mean, it really feels like a regular neighborhood there. And then eventually, Sheriff Meeker and Loomis finds them. These guys are playing pranks dressed up as Michael. There's like three or four of them dressed up, and they almost get shot. But Michael's very methodical in this one. I like how he takes out the whole police force, and then he takes out the guy at the power station. He takes out all the power on the town, so makes it really hard for everybody to kind of function that evening. Um, when they find out the whole police station's down, there's all these vigilantes. I'm a big fan of these guys, Earl and all these guys at the bar. And they said, like, one of them, Earl, lost his boy like 10 years earlier or something. I'm curious which boy he was referring to. I don't know. I always, when he said that, for some reason, the first person that came and popped in my head, I thought was Bob from part one, but who knows? Could be anybody from one or two. So, and then I like how they want to go hunt down Myers, and Loomis kind of gets them all amped up, like saying it was Michael Myers. We're going to take care of this, and pissed off Meeker, but Meeker was kind of going for it. Saying, there's nothing I can do. My whole police force is done. So, and I want this guy stopped. So if these guys are going to do it, then so be it. So they decide to have this plan to where they're going to stand pat over at the Meeker house. And first, though, before they get there, it's showing the vigilantes going through town. They see one of those pranksters dressed up as Michael, and they stop. They're like, I saw him in the bushes, and then they just all start shooting him after they hear a sound or see a sound out on the bush, and then they realize it's Ted Hollister, one of the kids that played the prank. And then it goes to like a love scene where it's showing Kelly Meeker and Brady, and then the sheriff shows up with Loomis and Rachel and Jamie, and I don't know. That's a whole cool sequence there when they're all kind of in that house with the fireplace and everything's locked down. But little did they know, Deputy Logan shows up from Rachel's house, Rachel and Jamie's house, and Michael was hiding in the back seat the whole time, almost kind of like in the original when he's in the back of Annie's car. And then eventually, on the radio, they Sheriff Meeker realizes that all the vigilantes, the guys at the bar, had killed Ted Hollister, so he's got to go out and try to stop these guys from all the madness they're going. What's going on? Well, and then Loomis goes out trying to go look for him at Jamie's house to camp out, and then thinking they're all safe with Deputy Logan, but let alone Michael's been in the house the whole time. You can see kind of a shadow of him at one point when Rachel is up talking to Deputy Logan. You can see Michael's mask just for like a quick couple seconds there, and then when Logan looks and Michael's gone, obviously. And then I got the little love triangle there when Rachel and Kelly, and then Rachel throws the coffee or the tea on her, and then they go upstairs, or Rachel goes upstairs to check on Jamie to be with her, and then Michael ends up killing Deputy Logan. This is a whole cool scene I like too, where Michael's sitting with the shotgun and the rocking chair, and you can just see a shadow, and Kelly thinks it's him. She lights up the matches, sees Logan's body. Michael gets up, turns around, shoves the shotgun up her through the wall, almost like the accelerated, like the times 10 version of like how he killed Bob in part one with the knife through the wall. This time it's the shotgun all the way through, and that was a really cool scene there. And then moments later, Rachel, after she's on the radio, and cavalry's on their way. I think they said like 45 minutes to an hour they'll be there to help take down Myers. And she goes to go let Logan know, finds his body, finds Kelly's body, and then runs into Brady. Brady's got his shotgun up the stairs. She's like, I got to find Jamie. Jamie's gone. Michael's there. Brady does not know how to use a shotgun at all. And Michael comes up. This is always a cool scene too. And, basically squeezes his neck and crushes him. And then you got the great rooftop scene. It's a great scene there. The chase scene up there. Apparently, the girls went through a hell in that movie. Ellie Cornell always talks about, who played Rachel, how she, cut herself on a nail there when sliding down on the roof, right up against the chimney. And I don't know how Rachel survived falling off from that roof, but she does. And then Jamie runs into Loomis. They go to the school. Michael shows up, and somehow, for a scene, Michael has yellow hair on the mask and throws Loomis through there. Rachel is still alive, comes back with a fire extinguisher, and you know, Michael, I don't know, blinds him for a little bit or whatever. And then the vigilantes show up at the school. They hear the sounds of and they're rated like, you know what? They're like, the hell with this. Let's leave. Let's get out of town. Let the state police handle it. Michael, during that time, was hiding under the truck the whole time. And while they're out on the road, that's kind of a cool sequence too, where he comes up, just kills everybody in the truck. And then Rachel takes over, slams on the brakes, runs Michael over, goes flying. All the state police show up. Then Jamie, for whatever reason, still don't know what the heck that was all about, goes out there, starts touching Michael's hand. I guess maybe he got her power, or he gave her some of his evil when she touched him, I guess. I don't know. It don't make sense to me, but whatever. And then the cops start shooting him down into the well, and everybody goes back to the house where Dr. Loomis is still alive. Sheriff Meeker's there. Rachel, her parents, Jamie are there. And then all of a sudden, there's a scene where it shows a mask being put on, like in the very first one. And I remember having chills during that scene. I was like, what the fuck? Michael's still alive. Wow, how are they going to end him in this one? Then you see the stabbing with the scissors. And then for me personally, at that time on my very first viewing, I was shocked. I love it where it shows Loomis, and it just gives me goosebumps thinking about it, where it shows Jamie in the clown suit holding up the scissors. Michael and Loomis is pleading like, no, I thought I got rid of this evil. Now I got to deal with another evil. And it was a really memorable ending. I love the ending to that movie. So yeah, so Halloween 4, that is my fourth ranked movie. So now let's go into number 3, and that is the new Halloween, 2018's version. And I also saw this one in the theater as well. I saw it on opening night. I saw it one more time with one of my best friends. I saw it with a big group, so it was a lot of fun. And I remember coming out of the theater. Every single Halloween that I've come out of the theater watching, I love it every time. And maybe it's just because I'm a little biased, because I'm a huge fan of the series. But my biggest issue with this movie, I don't like how it seems like the story is a little off. I don't think it's very well written. And I hate the fact that you take away Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2. And I like how this movie makes fun of it, basically with the kids in there walking down the street, where they talk about how Jamie Lee Curtis's character Laurie. It's like they talk about, yeah, she's traumatized 40 years after all these killings. But if you only have it in part 1, he basically has only killed his sister. You got the guy, the gas station guy or whatever, how Michael got his suit. And then you got Bob, Linda, and Annie. So basically 5 people. And she basically spent 10, 15 minutes of Michael, one-on-one together. And I mean, I guess it is believable, but it would make a lot more sense if you added Halloween 2 in there. I don't have a problem with the brother-sister angle at all. To me, it makes more sense of why he would go after her, because it doesn't fit why. It's like, how did they just get set up to have this big showdown in this one? I mean, why would Michael even care, really, I guess, about her? I guess maybe tying up loose ends, making sure he kills everybody. But so this movie begins with Michael in the asylum, and you got Dr. Sertan, a new character who knew Dr. Loomis, and then you got these reporters who somehow have Michael's mask. They have this interview where they try to get Michael to talk. It's kind of a cool sequence there. I don't know how they would have his mask though. And then you get the beginning. It's a lot like Halloween 1, where it shows the pumpkin and all the cast and everything. I thought that was really cool. Um, then you get to Lori, where they go to Lori's house. They offer her a few $100 for an interview, and so they try to get the scoop about her story. And Michael or Lori's all of a sudden this survivalist. She's been great with guns. She's lived her whole life in fear. She's put her daughter through that hell, and she's also tried to warn her granddaughter as well. Um, so eventually, they hear like Michael's going to be transferred to another facility, and it really fucks up Lori. And she basically is, just she starts drinking. She's all messed up, can't get over her PTSD, and her biggest fear happens. Michael in the bus escapes, and it's a whole setup anyway. Sertan has had this plot. He's just obsessed with Michael, obsessed with Dr. Loomis, obsessed with Lori as well, and wants to see how Michael is out in the wild, out in the real world. He's obsessed with trying to get him to talk. He hasn't talked during all this time, and so he helps him escape. I think my biggest surprise in that movie right off the bat was when Michael kills the kid in the car. That was really surprising. I was like, okay, I see where they're going here. But Michael in this version, if they're trying to go a lot of the Michael from part one, to me, there's not a lot of similarities because he's brutal in this. He does not give a fuck. He just is just relentless, starts killing everybody. And the first one, he's more methodical about it. He stalks more. Um, he picks his target, and he just picks the right moments of when to strike. This one, until he gets to the babysitter's house, is basically is taking people out one by one relentlessly. So the first step is when Michael gets out, he goes back to Haddonfield. He sees the reporters are there at Judith Meyer's gravestone, and then he follows them to this gas station, rest stop area, and one of them goes in to use the restroom, which is one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. I love this scene, and you can see in the background before he goes into the restroom, Michael's in there beating up one of the mechanics in there and stealing their outfit or whatever. And then there's some really brutal kills there. Takes one of them their teeth, and actually it wasn't him going to the bathroom. It was the girl going to the bathroom. My mistake. And then she's in there going to the restroom. Michael's in there, drops the teeth in there, and that's a really cool scene there. And then he starts trying to get her, trying to kill her, and then the guy shows up and he just beats the crap out of him, and then he strangles her to death. But that whole sequence I thought was intense. It was really thought they did a really good job with that scene. And then after that, to me, seemed like a lot of it kind of went downhill. You also, before that scene, you get introduced to Laurie's daughter. You get introduced to her granddaughter and her daughter's husband. And he tries to be funny there with some of his comments. I mean, I guess it's funny, but I don't know. For me, I want a Halloween movie to be serious, not more jokingly, making jokes and stuff. Not a big fan of the granddaughter's boyfriend. I think he's kind of an idiot, and then same with his friend Oscar as well. He's an idiot as well. Um, you got the scene also before Michael breaks out where they're going to dinner, meeting up for dinner, and they talk about the costumes they're going to be wearing and going to the Halloween costume. The dance scene's kind of fun. You got the love triangle there. You got the cute girl Kim in the cat suit. She's really cute, and then the boyfriend starts making out with her, and then then he basically blames her, which is freaking stupid. I mean, and she allows him to throw her phone into the dip there. I don't even know how that happened. Of course, during that time, Laurie's trying to warn her about Michael escaping and to get in a safe place. Um, So then Michael's into Haddonfield after he kills the two reporters. And then this is a cool scene too, but he just goes relentless. He just goes house to house and just kills basically everybody there except for the little baby, which I'm glad he didn't do that. But I like the scene where the ladies looking through the mirror, and you can see Michael coming in the background, stabs her through her neck, and it comes out in the front. That was always a cool scene. And then he goes to the babysitter's house and hides in the closet. The little kid there, who her friend's babysitting, and Allison's friend is kid's funny. I don't like a lot of comedy, but that part was pretty funny. They talk about smoking weed there, and he's like, "I'm gonna rat on you," and then he's like talking about this guy with a funny face is in my closet. Come check it out. And the girl's boyfriend Dave is there too. So she's like, "No, have Dave come check it out. I don't want you to die." So that's pretty funny. And then she goes up and then goes to the closet, opens the closet. Michael actually is there, and then Michael kills her. And then the boyfriend has a big decision there to make. The kid she's babysitting runs off and escapes, which I'm glad there. And the boyfriend makes a decision. He hears his girlfriend screaming. He's like, he knows he's basically fucked. He goes up there anyways, and then you see the aftermath of him being stabbed into the wall, and then the tattoo with the date there. So that's kind of sad there. Laurie hears it on the radio. The deputy hears it on the radio too. I guess he was one of the arresting officers there that night in '78. So he shows up, and Laurie sees Michael in there, and so does the deputy, and he shoots Michael in the shoulder when he shows up. And then Laurie gets a shot in at the mirror as well. And then Sertan shows up because he gets shot, I guess, by the kid earlier in the movie, and he's all excited about meeting Laurie, all intrigued, and they try hunting Michael down. Um, Laurie's, warning her family, you need to come to my house now because she's well prepared there. She has all these cameras, she's got all these guns, got this dungeon all set up. They've been prepping for this for a long time. So she ends up getting her daughter and her husband to go follow along with her there. They got a couple cops sitting out there as well, a couple idiot cops, kind of like the idiots from Part 5, except they don't have the stupid circus music to go along with it. And I think one of the biggest mistakes too is that I wasn't a big fan of is Sertan all of a sudden being involved in this, and he stabs a deputy in the neck, and then when he puts on Michael's mask with Allison in there, that was like one of the oddest scenes I'd ever seen in the whole franchise. I did not like that scene, and it was weird. Like Michael kills Sertan basically all our way. I mean, drags him into the car. They drive to Laurie's house, and then Michael kills Sertan right away. That's a cool kill. Squashes his head like a watermelon, and then two cops. One was making fun about his little meal there, and like talking about a bonbon sandwich, and then he's talking about his meal is like a meal that a 5-year-old would make for lunch. I thought that was kind of funny though. And then kills the cops. That was a cool scene with like the light, flashlight, and with the face, almost like he skinned him, almost like a Leatherface type thing from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And Michael shows up there, but first Karen's husband comes out thinking the cops are there, and then Michael comes up from behind him and kills him. And then Laurie gets very protective there and has her daughter stay in the basement, which is all set up there. Um, Michael comes up and basically throws his hand through the mirror or the glass through the door, smashes her face through the front of the door. I don't know how she wasn't scarred up more after that or knocked her out or something. Shoots off Michael's hand, and then and Michael gets in, or she goes down in the basement, and then Michael gets inside and she shoots at him. I don't know why she shot at him from above. I would have waited for Michael to actually open the um, the trap door first before I would shoot him. But I think they just need that for the extra suspense, kind of like the callback to the original there. So Laurie, I like how she methodically. That part's real intense when she's trying to find where Michael's at in the house. It has a little bit of a resemblance to the first one there. She goes from room to room and then seals it off after she checks it. You got the closet. You're thinking that maybe he's in the closet, kind of like how she was in the closet in the first one. She eventually makes it upstairs, and he's hiding behind the mannequins. There's a real kind of intense fight scene there, and Michael ends up stabbing her and throwing her off the balcony, kind of like the exact opposite of when Loomis shoots Michael and he falls off the balcony. And then Michael looks down, and then Laurie's gone. So actually, that was kind of a funny part too there. And so so then Michael starts. Allison shows up there, and there was a scene though where she's out in the woods where she finds all the mannequins. That kind of, I don't know, that scene kind of reminds me a little bit of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like of the out in the woods for some reason. I'm not sure which one it reminds me of, but it kind of has some resemblance there. And it shows flashes to the moon there. Well, she comes down in the basement, hides with her mom, and Michael gets finally gets the trap door open. And then Karen plays the role like, I can't do this, I can't do this, like tricking Michael, and then she shoots him. And then Laurie comes from behind and stabs him. And Allison ends up stabbing Michael too. And then he goes down to the basement, and then they trap it. It's a trap set up for the whole time. And then they try to burn him alive. And then they all just escape into this truck. And then you can obviously clearly see that Michael's still not in there when they flash back in there. But Um, yeah, I don't know. It's a good movie. Um, we'll see how it ages. We'll see how it goes with the new ones. I'm really anxious for the new ones that come out next year and the year after. So that's my number three. Number two. Sometimes I like number two better than number one. It'd be a very unpopular decision because everyone's number one seems to be the original, and it is mine too. But number two is Halloween 2, the original. My favorite Michael in that movie. I love Michael's look in this movie. I love everything about Halloween 2. Where people nitpick about this movie, I love it. I think Dick Warlock does a masterful job. I love his stalking in this. I think seems so unstoppable as well in this movie. I love how it picks up right after the original. Um, I grew up every year. You watch part one, you watch part two right after. They go together just like peanut butter and jelly. I mean, you gotta watch one and two together. For me personally, you can't go to one and then to the new one. I guess you can, but I prefer going one into two, the original part two. And I like how Michael has, it's more gory in this one. I prefer a little bit more gore in my horror movies, but I don't mind it too in the original. So sometimes it just all kind of depends on the movie. I think this one worked better with the gore in this one. And I love the hospital setting. I love how it's all dim and dark. I love the characters. You even get a little cameo from one of the girls from Prom Night, the original Prom Night. The 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 bitchy girl from Prom Night 1 plays a role where she's with Karen the nurse. She's like, "You got to give me a ride home. You promised me," and that was her. So she played a small role there. You also got Dana Carvey from Garth from Wayne's World plays a really small cameo in that movie as well. Um, so you pick up with Laurie. She's going to the hospital. Donald Pleasance is freaking out. He finds Sheriff Brackett saying, "I shot him 6 times." And Brackett's like, couldn't have got very far. Uh, I like the scene where Michael kills the girl who's on the phone next door to um, the old couple who's watching Night of the Living Dead. I never know if Michael killed that couple or not. It never tells if he did, but he definitely kills the girl next door. He pops out and then stabs her through the neck there. I thought that was a really cool kill there as well. And then you get the scene where they're going down the road where Loomis and Brackett are looking for Michael, and they find this kid wearing a mask that looks real familiar as Michael with a Halloween bag. I don't understand how they would think that's Michael. Like, why would he be wearing, or why would he be carrying a trick or treat bag? So, but they're just so paranoid, probably in shock after just shooting him and then him getting up and walking away. So he probably wasn't in the right frame of mind. So then they run him over. Later, we find out it's Ben Tramer, the kid that Laurie's love interest in the first one, and that's when Brackett gets the call from Deputy Hunt, to talk about that they found three bodies near the Doyle house across the street, and one of them was Annie. And I would be the same way as Brackett. Like, nothing else matters. I don't care if we just ran over this kid. I just lost my daughter, so I need to make sure that this is real. And then Brackett does a really good job, and then of course he just wants to do the blame game. Blame Loomis. It's your fault that Michael killed my daughter, um, which is not true. Loomis was basically Dr. Wynn and all the rest of the doctors, basically, with Michael escaping. And and then you got, Laurie going to the hospital. You got the main doctor, Dr. Mixter, completely, he's like trying to sober up. He was at a party where Laurie's parents were at, and um you got the little kid who, I think he's the kid from The Fog, and he has like the razor blades in his mouth, and he's there. He's just like a small role there as well, just showing that nobody's safe on that night. And Michael eventually makes it to the hospital. He hears it on the radio of where Laurie was taken, and he get introduced to Jimmy and Bud. They were introduced actually before when they took Laurie to the hospital, but Lance Guest, he played in a lot of movies. He played in like Jaws 4 and The Last Starfighter and a lot of other things over the years. And I think he does a pretty good job. I know a lot of people think he's kind of like the creepy guy, like obsessed with Laurie there, but um, Bud's character's funny. He's obsessed with Karen, who, why not? Karen's beautiful, gorgeous, gorgeous woman in that movie. I love the hot tub scene. Uh, and then, yeah, he sings that song like, Amazing Grace, come sit on my face. Don't make me cry. I need your pie. That's always a funny scene there. And Jimmy's all serious, just like that could have been, your kid brother or whatever. And Bud's not taking everything so serious. Um, Michael makes it to the hospital, and of course, security guard is not even paying attention. Michael sneaks on in, breaks in. Eventually, security guard goes to check in, and then good sequence there where Michael kills him with the hammer. I like that scene. That's a cool death scene there as well. And yeah, Mrs. Alice, the main head nurse, she's really bitchy, but she's really strict. Michael's in there, like while Karen's showing up late to her job or whatever. You can see Michael in the background in the room with all the newborns, and sneaks off while she's reprimanding her for being late, basically warning her, if you're going to keep being late, you're going to get fired, basically. And I always like the scene too where it shows Michael walking down the steps. You kind of see it more like towards the end during the chase scene, but it's always kind of a cool scene there where it shows. I don't mind him having, I guess, after it took me a few viewings to realize that Michael mainly used a scalpel through that whole movie, which is cool. They differentiated themselves from all the other entries, so that was cool there. Like, again, I love the mask in this one. Um, Michael's, his kills. He kills Dr. Mixture with the needle into the eye. He kills the girl with the needle into the temple. And then you got Bud and Karen in the hot tub scene. That was always the drowning scene there. I still don't know how Michael didn't even burn his hands at all in that scene. That's also when you realize Laurie realizes who it was that was After her, Jimmy lets her know that it was Michael Myers, and she's like, "He was in the hospital," and tells him how he escaped. The little kid who killed his sister. Then she starts having these flashback dreams about almost like she blacked it out until now of visiting Michael at a young age while he was at the sanitarium. And it's almost like they're giving you those hints, the later revealing at the end of the movie. And and Michael's real smart there. He pops all the tires there, fucks with all the cars there so no one can really drive off. Um, Laurie's basically doped up through the whole movie there. Then you got the scene at the school where Michael breaks in and stabs, the sister picture and writes the Samhain, but they say Samhain there, meaning like the Lord of the Dead. And then that's when the nurse comes in, basically telling Loomis that you're being ordered to come back. Everybody from the sanitarium is being ordered back there, especially with the whole Myers thing. They don't want the facility to get a bad rep on everything, what's going on. And then that's when Michael finally, or when she finally does the revealing of Laurie being Michael's sister. And then Loomis fires the warning shot, tells the marshal, "You better turn this around right now." And that's when they head back to the hospital. You have the old chase scene too. I got the scene where Michael kills the nurse, Janet, or not Janet. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. I should know this because I love this movie so much. And then, lifts her up with a scalpel or clogs fall. And then that's when the great chase scene starts. I think it's arguably just as great as the chase scene in the first one. I think it's great, especially it's intense especially when she's trying to get into the slowest working elevator in film history. That elevator seems to take forever to get to her. And then, you got the scene too where you find Jimmy slips in the blood, Mrs. Alice's body there. It would have been kind of cool to see that death as well. Um, I don't really know what happened to Jimmy. In the television version, he's got the bandage around his head, and then they talk about how they made it. And then in this version, you never see his body again after he's like in the car and he falls onto the horn. That was always kind of a gray area. So if they just cleaned up a few more things, I think it wouldn't have got as much of a bad rep. I mean, I think in most rankings, people rank this entry pretty high, but I've seen a lot of rankings where they ranked the 2018 or Halloween 4 or even H2O better than this one, but not many other ones I see very often ranked over number two. But has a great scene at the end. I like where Michaels goes through the glass, kills the marshal, and then gets trapped in that room, with Loomis and Laurie, shoots him in the eyes. And Loomis basically sacrifices his life to save Laurie. At the end, they both blow up. Great scene where Michael walking with the fire. So they did a great job there. For me personally, it's a flawless movie. I love it. The first two are arguably my two favorite horror movies of all time. And to me, it's one complete movie. Like it's a continuation. I would like to have a version of one and two combined without the credits in there. I think that would be great too as well. So, and last but not least, number one, the original Halloween, 1978. John Carpenter, my favorite director of all time, created my favorite horror movie of all time. Very low budget here. I mean, another flawless movie. Great camera work, great music, great atmosphere, great characters, everything. I always tend to watch the TV version now because the original version doesn't really have much blood anyways. I like getting the extra scenes in there where it's showing like Dr. Loomis at the facility, hoping that Michael would never get out, and then you got the scenes where he walks down also before Michael breaks out, and he's like walks into Michael's room. He's like, "You fooled them, Michael, but you didn't fool me." And then you got the scene where it shows after Michael broke out, and you see the sister written on the door. Michael's room is thrashed, and then you also got the scene where Linda comes to Laurie's house, and thinking that the character, they thought Michael was following her. Like they didn't know it was Michael; they thought it was Steve Todd or whatever. So and then wants to borrow her dress. So this movie starts off 1963. Michael Myers ends up killing his sister. Basically shocks everybody. If you have never seen this movie before and you see that they're revealing that it's a little kid killing his sister, it would be really shocking. Um, and you fast forward 15 years later, shows where he broke out. Dr. Loomis is there with the nurse. Michael escapes and goes to Haddonfield. You got the great music in there. And then he does a really good job building these characters. I think a lot of the gripe, if people do have anything negative to say about this movie, is how slow it gets after Michael breaks out of the sanitarium before he kills Annie. But I like it because I mean it takes forever for that next kill to happen. I mean, besides the guy that he steals the outfit from, but it's building characters. You get to know who Laurie is. You get to know who Annie is. You get to know who Linda is. He does a really good job, building those characters up. You follow them all along the way. I love how Michael is. It starts off where Laurie is. Her father is. They have Strode Realty, and they're about to sell the Myers house. And she's dropping these papers off, and Michael just happens to be there. And for whatever reason, he just targets her. That's who he wants to kill. If it's not a brother and sister angle, I mean, I guess why is he so obsessed with her? Because she's the first one who comes to his house. I mean, that's kind of a weird um, loose end there, unless she was his sister. That would make more sense of why he's following her, because he wants to scare the shit out of her. So I don't know. To me, it seemed like they set it up perfectly for part two. So I don't know why John Carpenter would have to drink a six pack every night to write in that angle, the brother sister angle. So I know a lot of fans don't like the brother and sister angle, but there are some out there that doesn't mind it and thinks it makes more sense, and I'm one of them. So Michael just starts stalking her all the way from school, and she sees him outside while she's in the classroom. When she's walking with her friends, he drives by in a car. She sees the mask as well. She also sees him in her backyard. I thought was a really cool scene as well. And then you also got Tommy. We'll see Michael as well. Like the kid's picking on him, and Tommy sees him outside across the street at Lindsay's house, standing there, and he's like the boogeyman because all the kids are scaring him about the boogeyman. So they're babysitting. So Laurie's babysitting Tommy. You got Annie babysitting Lindsay, and then Linda's planning on coming over there with Bob, trying to figure out a way on how to get a place to hang out with so they can get rid of Lindsay. And so eventually Michael's stalking Annie first. I guess he chooses to take her out first. The scene is really interesting where Michael's hiding in the car. He notices that when the first time she goes into the car, it's locked, and the next time she doesn't even use her keys and she tries to open the door and it's already unlocked. So Michael obviously ripped the door open. But I don't know. I guess from always watching that movie, I always look in the back seat of my car every single time before I start driving away. So thank you, Halloween, for that. It's like Urban Legend, the movie Urban Legend too. So he strangles her to death, and then he slits her throat right after he strangles her. And then Linda and Paul show up, and Michael's watching them while they're having sex. And then in the aftermath, probably the best death or best sequence, one of the best sequences in the whole movie, is when Bob, goes down to get a beer, and then thinks they're playing a prank on him, and Michael comes rushing through the door, strangles him, and then stabs him, raises him up through the wall, and then takes his glasses and puts on the sheet, pretends to be Bob dressed as a ghost. That's a cool scene too. And he strangles Linda while Linda's calling Laurie, and Laurie thinks it's Annie having sex on the other line. It's really Linda dying, and all the lights, pop on, and then you got the best part of the whole movie is at when Lori decides to go over to the Wallace house to find out what's going on with her friends. Something weird's going on there. She thinks they're all going to jump out and play a prank on her. She finds Annie's body first, sprawled out onto the bed in the parents' bedroom with Judith Meyer's gravestone there. And then she finds Linda's body in the closet. She was strangled. Then you got Bob's body that falls hanging like a bat from the top of the door. I like how they set that up like that would actually really be able to do that with timing it right, like they do in all the Friday 13th movies and the Halloween movies there. But then you got the great scene too where she comes out of the hallway and then you see Michael's mask light up, stabs her in the shoulder. I don't know how Michael missed her. I mean, completely. I mean, but she's the final girl, so he can't get her. And then she falls down the stairs, and then you got the great score while he's chasing her. Great intense scenes. I like the scene where she gets the front door eventually when she gets out, and Michael's on his way there, and then the window's open. Tommy finally, lets her in. She tells him to hide upstairs, and then Michael pops through the window and misses her again, and then she stabs him in the neck with a knitting needle. I don't know why they never finished them off. And then she goes upstairs and she thinks she killed him. But you see Michael in the background coming up the stairs, and then kids scream. They hide in one room, and then Lori opens up the doors to make it look like maybe she jumped off the balcony, and then she hides in the closet. Then you got the intense scene where Michael comes into breaks open the closet. She stabs him in the eye with the hanger, and then stabs him in the stomach with the knife, and then Michael falls down. And you got the classic scene after that. She tells the kids to run, go to the McKenzie's house across the street. And in the background, you got the classic Michael sit-up scene where clearly that's where the Undertaker, the pro wrestler, and Kane got their sit-up scenes clearly from that scene alone. You got the music. You hear the kids screaming outside. Loomis is finally, finds the car, and then he finally knows that Michael's around and goes upstairs. Michael starts strangling Lori. Real intense scene. She rips his mask off. Loomis shoots him 6 times, 7 times mainly. I don't know. In part 2, it looks like it's 7 times. Michael falls off the balcony, and you got the classic scene where Loomis looks down and Michael's gone. So that is a great ending to that movie. Yeah, so that is my Halloween rankings. I believe next I'll probably work on maybe doing the Friday 13th rankings because I want to stick with my 2 favorite entries. Probably after that do the Nightmare on Elm Street since I did my 31 on 31. If you watch that, you'd probably know all the revealings in order of those anyways, but I want to do one that's separate from each series. And then after that, I think I'll do the Silent Night, Deadly Night series. You don't see those ranked very often as well. So I would love for anyone who enjoys my page here to subscribe at the bottom. I want to figure out how to get some background in the back to where I can actually put numbers and have like a picture instead of having to hold up the movie case in my rankings. So again, I'm still new to this, so it's always a work in progress. If you like my channel, please subscribe at the bottom, and please support what I do, and I would love to see your rankings down in the comments section. Remember, my rankings aren't right. They're just my personal opinions. So again, thank you for everybody who's taken the time to watch this video and support me. And have a good weekend. Peace.